Good evening. Well, at least it's evening here in Texas, heading towards Houston from Colorado. Right now, let's see, I'm somewhere between Dallas and Houston. Still got a long way to go though. This reminds me of when I was just a little boy. When I was a little boy, I was like that. Yeah, say now, who do you think you're fooling? No, I ain't fooling nobody, but when I was a little boy, went through some things, but you know, kids are resilient. It was me, it was my next brother Dan, who was just almost 2 years younger than me, and Steve, who was about 2 years, or yeah, about exactly 2 years younger than Dan. And Greg and Richie came later. But I was 10 years old, couldn't figure it out, but it happened. Yep, Mom and Dad broke up. Yep. It was kind of shocking, but then again, I don't know. We were just kids having fun in life. Yep, but this, yeah, from what Dan says, and I think I got a pretty good memory. I don't know how I don't remember this, but my brothers bring up things that I'm like, what? Really? Anyways, I guess it was after all the arguing and fighting that Mom and Dad did. Well, right now when I was 10 years old, that's when it all started happening. And then, I guess Mom was on one side of the room and Dad was on the other side of the room. Or no, maybe, yeah, something to that effect. This is according to my brothers, what they said to me. And Mom said, your dad and I are breaking up. You guys choose who you want to go with, me or him. So, right away, without even a second thought, I walked right over to my dad. And apparently, from what it sounds like, my brothers all followed in step. So, what it seems to be was Mom was like, well, that ain't fair. Greg was still about 4. He's probably about 4 years old. Yeah, so she said, well, Greg's coming with me then. So me, Dan, and Steve on a wintry day got in Dad's car in the middle of the day and drove off. And I remember looking, we were sitting in the back seat, I remember looking out the little window behind you, seeing poor Greg waving in the big picture window to us, crying. We didn't know any better. Dan, Steve, and myself, we weren't crying. We were just like, whatever, we're just kids. So we went off and stayed in a couple of temporary places. Well, one temporary place actually. Garden View Apartments, which is over by Northcrest, behind Northcrest. I don't know what it's called anymore. It used to be called Garden View. Still there. The exact same buildings and everything is still there. But, I mean, that was a long time ago. 1974, 1973. So, yeah, and then from there, I don't know how long we were there. That was a blur to me. That was all a blur. I was in 4th grade and went to Northcrest for a little bit. Don't remember much of that at all. I remember we had to rotate on the bed. Dad had a bed. We were staying with Phil Schultz, who was the weatherman on Channel 21 where my dad worked, TV 21, ABC. And yeah, so I guess Phil probably said, yeah, you can stay here with me. Dad and him were buddies. Phil had one room, and then there was another room that was vacant, so Dad, me, Dan, and Steve stayed in that room. And I remember one of us had to rotate and sleep on the floor. So, you know, it is what it is. But anyways, yeah, then we moved over to Shamrock Chateau, which is now right across from Show Park on St. Joe Road, which is now called, I don't know, Golf something or other. We stayed over there, and somehow or other, we were tasked, Dan, Steve, and myself were tasked to take a long Greyhound bus trip all the way out to Phoenix, Arizona, where Mom was. I mean, it seemed like a long time. We hadn't seen Mom. We grew up with our mom, so we seen her every day, obviously. And then all of a sudden, we didn't see her for almost a year. Probably wasn't a year, but it seemed like a year. It seemed like forever. But, yeah, I remember one time. I'm not going to go off on tangents. Anyways, so Dad drove us all the way to Indianapolis to the Greyhound bus station at nighttime, just like this. It probably had to be like 9, 10 o'clock at night. I don't know. We go to the bus station. Wow, that was an eye-opener for us. We get on the bus, 1974, hippies all around us. People with big afros. We get on the bus. Me, 10 years old, Dan is 8, and Steve is 6. We get on the bus. Forget about us. Put the blame on me if I don't see a yellow ribbon. No, but we got on the bus, and here we are on our way out to, shoot, we never left. Well, actually, I was born in Japan, but I don't remember that. Dan was also born over there. Steve was born in Maine. I mean, I remember a little bit of that, but we pretty much never left, you know, anywhere real early. So here we are on a bus, Greyhound bus, just the 3 of us. Dad gave me $50 to take care of your brothers. Here I am, 10-year-old Dave. Have no concept of money, let alone $50, which was a lot of money back in 1974. But we're on the bus, and I don't know, I don't remember much about that. It seemed all right. We were kind of excited because we were going to see Mom, and we were heading out, you know, to see America. Look for America. Yeah, we were going to go see America. So it was interesting because we got all the way through Missouri, and then as soon as we hit Oklahoma, I started to remember like Tulsa area or something. It was like, oh, this is cool. It's kind of nice, kind of hilly and stuff. I don't remember ever seeing like hills or mountains. And then the further out we went, Amarillo, Texas, Gallup, New Mexico, Albuquerque, you know, all out that way. And I remember, I think I don't know if I bought much food for my bros, but that $50 Dad gave me, I pretty much remember buying a souvenir for my mom. It was a little Indian doll, and I bought some cool sunglasses for myself. And my poor bros, man. But anyways, we got all the way out to Arizona. First time seeing cactus, so that was pretty awesome. And then, oh my goodness. I grew up in Indiana where in summertime, you go shirts and no shoes, no socks, barefoot. That's how we did. Our feet was always real tender. After school was out, because we had our school shoes on, all the time. From back then, it was September to June 7th time frame, and 3-month summer vacation. So when summer vacation first rolled around, you had that tender feet. You know, you were like, ooh, ooh, ow, ooh, ooh. You know, dancing across the little stones and stuff. But and then once a month went by, you were pretty much used to it because you were barefoot every day. I don't know about anybody else, but that's how I grew up. That was my world. And man, I'm gonna tell you now, don't try that in Phoenix, Arizona. Yeah, we were out there, and I think Mom was like, why don't you boys go to the store or something? Here's a little bit of money. So she gave us some change, you know. We were like, okay, get some pop. That's what we call cola, soda. We call that pop. But anyways, the Midwest folks do pretty much. And so we set out on a journey, Dan, Steve, and myself, to go get something at the store, which is probably only about, I would say, half a mile, if that. I don't know. It might have been, 500 yards. I'm not sure what got into my head, but I thought it was the same as Indiana. So we started walking, and I started running, and I was like, oh my God, there's no shade anywhere. My feet was burning because it was just tar. There's no grass out there, not like Indiana. My feet were burning. I was crying. Finally found a little piece of shade. I was standing there for like 30 minutes, like, what am I gonna do? I don't remember how we made it, but somehow we made it. I don't even know if I went all the way to the store. I might have ran back, but anyway. And then on the trampolines, I'll never forget, on the trampolines, Mom took us to the trampolines, and I did a somersault, and when I came around, my nose smashed into my knee, and there was blood everywhere. But anyways, I came to a sad realization that Mom and Dad were divorced. That was the saddest time of my life. That going there was fine, and before that was actually fine. But it hit me, I think the day I left, actually got on the bus, Dan, Steve, and myself. I don't even think we were sitting next to each other. I can't remember. I was the saddest I've ever been in my life. I couldn't quite pinpoint it though, but now I know. Years and years and years later, now I realize my mom was taken out of my life. Well, she took herself out of my life. And until that day, even the same day when we drove off away from Malladale Drive and saw little Greg and Greg was out there in Arizona. He was out there. I don't really remember much about that. We was only there for like maybe a week. And we got on the Greyhound and went all to take that long drive back to Indiana, and I was just so sad. I'm talking a feeling I haven't felt. That was one of the saddest points of my whole life. And I don't think I knew back then why I was so sad, because I was not going to be with my mom. The realization hit me. My mom and dad were never going to be together again. What a wonderful thing to have your mom and dad together. It's just a wonderful thing. Yeah, so that trip was, that was a trip. That was quite a trip. We made it all the way back. Nowadays, you couldn't do nothing like that. You couldn't put your kids, your little 10 and 8 and 6-year-old kid, on a 2-day journey with no adult supervision. Someone would turn you in. You'd probably end up at CPS or something. But Dad did that. He took a big risk. I never thought about that. I never thought about that at all until recently. Dad took a big risk. Of course, he loved us. Of course, he loved us. But he took a big risk. I don't know if he was a praying man. I don't really think he was, but he probably prayed for us. He probably said, if there's a God, watch over my children. But, yeah, so that was quite a trip. I thought I had a point to make about that trip, too. Doggone it. Well, I'll tell you what. We had some fun, though, Steve, Dan, and myself. And then Greg apparently didn't come. Well, Greg, see, I didn't know this either. This is what my brothers bring up to me. Greg came back with, quote, unquote, Mom. I don't remember that. I don't think I was there. She brought Greg back and gave him to Dad. She pretty much just left us, just deserted us. So, yeah, we had a good bringing up. And then, about a year after that, Richie came into the scene. Little Rich, because Dad married Patty. And she had Richie. And Richie was my little brother. He was about 2 years old. They called it the terrible twos. But he was nothing terrible, that's for sure. Richie was always a good little brother. Always. All my brothers are good. I love them so much. My dad was good. My grandpa was good. My mom, I can't say much about her. But, and I hate to say that. I hope she's not listening, but I don't think she is, because she's never called me one time. Not once. She's got my number too, because we found her like when I was, what time was I, 40? Finally found her again after 30 years. She always had black hair, and then she had blonde hair when I saw her when I was 40 in Arizona, or in Nevada. And she said, David, I've always had blonde hair. And I knew something was wrong right then, because she was, something was weird about her. But anyways, yeah, I'm getting off track, but that was it. And it was a sad time, but my brothers and me, we were always good to go. No matter what we went through, we always stuck together. Always stuck together. And then I joined the Navy, and the next thing you know, they shipped me to Japan, where I was born. And that's where my whole new life started. I didn't go back to Indiana for a long time after that. I visited once or twice in the early days, in the early 80s, but hardly ever after that. Once in the 90s I went, once in the 2005s I went, and then I moved back in 2016. So over 30 years I went back 3 times, just for like a couple of days. So anyway, yeah, I got some cool brothers. I guess that's the moral of the story. Dan, Steve, Greg, and Richie. And I am David Cook, on my way to Houston, actually way past Houston. You can look it up on the map. It's called Elizabeth, Texas. Anyways, where I'm going is literally on the Gulf of America. I mean, I don't mind Gulf of Mexico, actually. I mean, I'm not gonna say one thing or the other about, political stuff, but I really don't think, maybe it's just because I'm used to it. Anyway, we're splitting hairs, I think, when we start thinking that Gulf of Mexico is a bad name, or we should name it Gulf of America. I mean, that's kind of petty, but it's okay, because I do see on Google Maps it's called Gulf of America now. So it's all good. But I'll be right there on the Gulf of America, way past Houston, and it is getting kind of warm, which is nice. Yep. So much more to say, but I will continue tomorrow. Good night to all, and to all a good night.